Thanks for tuning in to Business Daily. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Lee. We have a lot coming up today, so let's get started by taking a look at the day's highlights. Home sales surged last year as jeonse, or Korea's lump sum deposit properties, became hard to find amid record low interest rates. Oil's dismal start to 2016 continued this week as prices plunged to fresh lows. We take a look at what impact this is having on the global economy as well as Korea that once hoped this would be a boon to the local economy. Casting a dark cloud over the new year today is news of Korea's youth unemployment rate, rising to an all-time high last year, with the number of new jobs added in 2015 also sitting at a 5-year low. With all this under his belt, the road ahead looks tough for the new finance minister who takes office today. Our Hong Jie has the details.
Statistics Korea says the youth unemployment rate last year came in at 9.2%. That's the highest on record since data standards were revised in 2000. The record unemployment figure comes as the nation's young people actively jumped into the labor market, even though job conditions were not looking so rosy in 2015. The economically active population of people ages 15 to 29 rose 80,000, but those in that group who found jobs last year stood at 68,000. The overall unemployment rate stood at 3.6%, the highest in 5 years. On top of that, the number of new jobs added in 2015 dropped to its lowest level since 2010. In 2014, Korea managed to add 533,000 jobs, but the figure dipped to 337,000 last year. The statistics agency says the decline last year comes from a high base effect in the previous year. It adds that the job market is showing signs of a recovery after it was hit hard by the MERS outbreak in the second quarter last year. Korea's employment rate for people in the 15 to 64 age group actually rose to its highest level on record in 2015, but that also came as more people searched for jobs as the unemployment rate rose. Hong Jie, Business Daily.
Meanwhile, Korea's export and import prices in 2015 continued their downward slide for a fourth straight year, mainly due to falling global prices of raw materials. The Bank of Korea said import prices slipped 15.3% last year from the year before, the biggest on-year decline since 1971, while export prices also dropped 5.2% from 2014. Export and import price indices help determine trends and price changes abroad and predict their impact on the domestic front. Now, the slip is mainly attributed to falling oil prices, which resulted in lower prices in oil products. Korea's main supplier, Dubai crude, fell 16.1% on month to $34.92 a barrel in December. And speaking of mortgages, we now know the hot real estate market of 2015 was in fact unprecedented in scale. Home sales exceeded 1 million as the price of jeonse, or Korea's lump sum deposit, also bloated by the most on record. Our Eunice Kim tells us more.
Exhibit A. In 2015, the number of home sales expanded by nearly 19% from the year earlier, registering 1.19 million transactions, the most since data was collected starting in 2006. A bulk of the increase was found in the Seoul metropolitan area, which includes Incheon and Gyeonggi-do province, rising by 32.4%. The capital of Seoul on its own registered a whopping 40% leap. So why were so many more houses snatched up near and within the capital city? With interest rates at a historic low and preferred lump sum jeonse prices through the roof, more city renters opted to become homeowners instead. Take a look at Exhibit B. The average jeonse deposit last year was $312,000, an increase of nearly $50,000 on year. That upsurge was nearly double that of the gain seen in the cost of buying a home, which rose by $27,000. Put together, this means the deposit to rent a home on average was 72% of the home's overall value, exceeding the 70% threshold for the first time. But things could get tougher for home seekers in 2016.
This year, the jeonse crisis could worsen as it will be tougher for individuals to get a mortgage as qualifications get stricter.
As the government tightens the noose around furious borrowing and the resulting sky-high household debt, experts say alternatives need to be offered so that home seekers are not left out in the cold. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
Global automakers are pinning their hopes on luxury sedans as their success can have a huge impact on a company's profits. The latest models are being unveiled at this year's Detroit Auto Show, and our Kim Min-ji gives us a glimpse of some of the cars creating the buzz.
Luxury sedans are stealing the spotlight at the Detroit Auto Show as car makers vie to boost their share in the fast-growing high-end market. Hyundai Motor unveiled its G90 premium luxury sedan under its new Genesis brand, which is aimed at capturing a larger portion of the global luxury car market. Toyota made a splash with its Lexus LC500 Sports Coupe. The company hopes it will help Lexus build a better reputation as a global brand among premium car consumers. Ford Motor raised the curtain on its much-anticipated Lincoln Continental luxury sedan after a 14-year hiatus. The automaker is counting on the model to appeal to Chinese consumers as well as help it compete with other luxury car brands.
First step is build better product. If you want to be competitive, you need to make very good product, and you have to do it for a while to get that brand image up. Now, some of the domestic manufacturers, they're already on the right track.
Automakers are hoping to lure car enthusiasts away from the three German players, BMW, Audi, and Mercedes, that account for roughly 80% of the global luxury car market. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
The year 2015 ended with continued falls in oil prices, and despite being just over 2 weeks into the new year, prices just keep on sliding. U.S. crude tumbled under $30 a barrel for the first time in 12 years on Tuesday, before recovering slightly to end at $30.41. Now, oil prices have now been in their worst 7-day run since the 2008 global financial crisis. So just how low will it go? Take a look.
The slide in oil prices began in late 2014 as U.S. Federal Reserve's quantitative easing program came to an end and rumors of an imminent rate hike began to spread. Then, in January of 2015, oil supplies in Iraq and Russia surged to the highest level in decades, pushing crude prices to their lowest in 5 years. After it became clear that the U.S. Fed would not raise interest rates, oil prices stabilized and briefly rebounded. But then prices started to fall again midway into the year as manufacturing in China, the US, and parts of Europe had been contracting steadily for months. Entering 2016, turmoil on the Chinese markets, a strong US dollar, and an oversupply of oil prompted prices to fall sharply on Tuesday to a 12-year low. And experts say if the short-term reason for the dramatic drop was a rise in US interest rates last year, it now looks like this will remain a longer-term trend. Some even say the collapse in oil prices since 2014 may have been signaling a coming recession in the global economy. And despite hopes that low oil prices would reduce costs and boost domestic demand for Korea, there are growing concerns that the nosedive will increase downward pressure on the already struggling local economy.
And to tell us more about this, Professor Lee Do-won from Yonsei University joins us in the studio today. Welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
All right, so a global economic slowdown last year and a persistent supply glut has led to plunging oil prices. In fact, just this year, the price of oil has slid 15%. So what's the reason behind such a rapid fall in oil prices this year?
Sure. I think we can look at it from the demand side and supply side as well. If you look at the demand side, the slowdown of the global economy, especially the slowdown of the Chinese economy, was the main reason behind the fall of the oil price. If you look at the Chinese economy, it has been slowing down in recent years. It used to be growing at like a 10% or 12% only like 3 or 4 years ago. But now they will be happy to grow at 7%. And naturally, when their economic growth rate slow down, they import less oil. That's the demand side. But more problem lies in the supply side as well. Now, even though the oil price continued to fall, the oil production in the main oil exporting countries such as Saudi Arabia, they remained constant. So when you combine this fall of the demand and constant supply, naturally you have oversupply of oil. And what makes things even worse was the shale gas production of the USA economy. As USA continued to produce more and more shale gas, they rely less on foreign oil, but more on domestic supply.
All right, then despite this oil prices hitting fresh lows this week, Morgan Stanley actually warned yesterday that Brent crude could slide even further to $20 a barrel. And although there are many reasons behind this plunge in oil prices, it's said that the reason if the oil prices fall to $20 to $25 a barrel range, then it would mostly be likely because of the strong dollar. Now, do you agree with this prediction, and where do you think this predictions really come from?
Well, definitely, I agree. It's analysis by the Morgan Stanley.
Okay.
Basically, we can look at it from the two different angles. The strong dollar can have an effect on the oil price in the real economy and also in the foreign exchange market. From the real economy point of view, strong USA dollar will lead to the increase of the interest rate almost every other place in the world, especially in the emerging market. As they increase their interest rate, their economic growth rate will be slowed down and will induce less import from the foreign oil. That's the real economic sector. If you look at the foreign exchange market, the effect can be even more significant. As USA increased the interest rate, a lot of emerging markets, they actually devalued their currencies. If they devalue their currency, the oil price, which is mostly denominated in USA dollar, feels more expensive to this emerging market economy. So they would like to import less and less oil. And in order to cope with this, the oil exporting countries, they have to reduce the price.
All right, but this is not the first time that we have seen oil prices plunge as this low. Back in 2003 was when we saw similar levels. So how does the global economic situation now compare to back then?
If you just look at the oil market only, then the global economic situation can be even worse than 12 years ago, both from demand side and supply side. Just like I mentioned, the growth rate of China has been slowed down. On the contrary, the growth rate of the other region of the global economy, except USA, are also slowed down as well, which is different from 12 years ago. 12 years ago, China was picking up, and also big economy like European economies, they enjoyed a stable growth rate, but not any longer these days. And from the supply side, more than anything else, the USA shale gas production continued to increase. And what is even worse is, in order to cope with this oil price fluctuation, many countries, including advanced countries and developing countries, they try to develop new energy sources. So that will reduce the demand for oil further.
Now, as we were talking about this, what's ironic for me is that in the beginning, when oil prices began to fall, a lot of countries considered it a blessing to their economy, including Korea, which imports almost all its oil imports, right? So now we have experts saying that we might be stepping closer to global recession. So what is this assessment based on, and how will this all impact the Korean economy?
Well, if I analyzed this problem 10 years ago, I would definitely say that this would be a blessing to the Korean economy. but not any longer. Oil price is like a double-edged sword to the Korean economy these days. But in the short term, mostly I think we will enjoy some positive effect in the short term at least, because the consumers, they will enjoy the low oil price. As the oil price gets lower, their disposable income is going to increase, so that they will have more purchasing power. And also, if you look at the producer's point of view, there are some industry that gets better off, and there are some industry that gets worse off. Some industries, such as shipping, tour, airlining industries, they will enjoy low oil price effect. But remember that now Korea is actually the exporter of refined oil, and we are exporting a lot of petrochemical product. They will suffer because of the high oil price. And another big industry suffer will be overseas construction, as the oil exporting countries such as Saudi Arabia, they suffer from their budget deficit. They definitely will reduce their order for overseas construction from the Korean construction companies.
All right, now there are also growing concerns over increasing deflationary pressure on the global economy because of the falling prices. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, definitely. Some economies in the global economy are suffering from deflation, like Japan, Europe, probably Korea. And this low oil price will further increase the pressure of deflation. However, if you look at deflation, basically it's a phenomenon of weak demand, weak domestic demand. So in order to fight against deflation, I think we really have to focus more on domestic consumption or domestic investment.
Thank you so much for your insight today, Professor.
Thank you.
And that does it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with more, so don't forget to tune in then. Until then, goodbye.